Washington, D.C. with our Prime Minister Netanyahu and United States President Donald Trump.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too. We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site and get rid of the destroyed buildings, level it out, create an economic development that will supply. And we're going to give people a chance to live in a beautiful community that's safe and secure.
We're going to take over and own the Gaza Strip. We're going to develop it, create thousands of jobs for everybody from all groups. He says the United States is going to level the area, rebuild it, and it's just going to be the Riviera of the Middle East, like the French Riviera, the Italian Riviera, the Riviera of the Silicon Valley of the United States. It's going to be like a top place. He envisions a place where Palestinians as well could come back, and it's an international place. But he does give a warning, like we better get all our hostages back, or else it's just going to become more violent. I'd love to hear in the comments what you think about this. And even when he was asked about deploying United States troops on the ground with me, President Trump says, we'll do what's necessary. We don't want to do the same process over and over again. We want to see something different. And isn't that the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome? And so, he says that he can't tell if the ceasefire is going to hold, but the hostages have to come out. And so this meeting with Netanyahu, it seems like they're best friends, and they're talking about the future of the Abraham Accords with this whole thing with Saudi Arabia. And I know that Netanyahu is considering leaving, reneging on the idea, on the promise of annexing Judea and Samaria. Some call it the West Bank, and for peace and normalization with Saudi Arabia. And so Trump calls it like a Gaza, a symbol of death. It's been a symbol of death for decades, and he knows how much money how many billions, $8 or $9 billion has gone to the Hamas, and they just used it for terror. They had their own state, quote unquote, since 2005. No Jewish people there, and I see the friendship there. Can you feel the friendship? Netanyahu says, "You're the greatest friend Israel has ever had in the White House," Netanyahu said to Trump, and so we're seeing this as such a time of upheaval. Now, is Trump really serious? Is this just kind of a shock to get everybody shocked, and then something less shocking will actually happen, or will this actually happen? And then about the nuclear pursuit of Iran, Netanyahu says that Iran tried to kill us both. They say death to America, death to Israel. They call Israel the little Satan, America the big Satan. And so together they're committing to roll back the aggression of Iran in the region and all their proxies. And I think there will be peace with Saudi Arabia and Israel, or at least a normalization. And so, but now Trump says they're considering their position on Israel annexing Judea and Samaria and make an announcement about it soon. So that's a real hot topic right now. You could see the violence that's happening in Judea and Samaria. And if we weren't there, how much more violence would be there? How much more terrorist hotbed would be there? And so it's just interesting to see what's going on. And he commented even on resettling Palestinians, Arab refugees from the 1948 war in Egypt or Jordan. And he says he's just got to clean the whole thing out. And I really want to hear what you think about this. I'm on the edge of my seat, edge of this tree, wondering what you're going to think about, what you're going to say about this. But there is the nuclear facilities. I've talked on that quite a bit in Isfahan and Natanz and Fordow in Iraq and other places. And they're just not going to let the terrorists get away with it anymore, which is what I'm seeing here. And but you remember that President Trump proposed relocating the Palestinians from Gaza to while the U.S. takes over, and then see who wants to come back and dwell in peace. So that is what could very well happen. I have some friends who are contractors, foreign contractors, and you see the UN there in Rafiah. You see special forces, all involved here. This is going to be quite a moment ahead of us. So hold on tight. You see Egypt is deploying troops all near the Gaza, tanks, and saying, Al-Sisi, the prime minister, does not want the Gazans to come in, although he's letting the wounded come in, some wounded for treatment. And you see all these tanks. You see thousands of tanks going throughout Sinai just to be sure that the Palestinians won't swarm into Egypt. So it's really going to be amazing to see what happens here, and it is dangerous for the Gazans to go back to those buildings. Many buildings have been in the midst of a war, in the midst of fighting, and are damaged. It's dangerous for them to just go back. They do need to get out of Gaza, if you ask me. And now there's how many there? About 1.7 to 1.8 million Palestinians that will evacuate eventually. What is it? Indonesia? Is it Jordan? Is it Egypt? Where? And live in a safe place. Maybe not all of them. So what's happening right now is that Trump did sign an executive order saying we're putting maximum pressure on Iran. So that is something interesting. We could be seeing the continuing of the Abraham Accords with Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan has a state oil company which agreed to a 10% stake in our Tamar offshore oil and gas, and that would really connect Baku, their capital, and Tel Aviv. And I think people just need to make their choice. Do they want to live a life of terror? Do they want to continue this, or do they want something different? We see that the Hamas are not trustworthy. We see that only strength, Israel strong, America strong, all of the West strong, will make sure that these hostages won't be taken from your own countries, that you won't have the same thing. You see what happens when you capitulate to terror. Learn from what we've gone through, and let's stand together, and let's have victory and new future where peace will abound. Jeremiah 20, verse 11. But the Lord is with me like a mighty warrior. So my persecutors will stumble and not prevail. They will fail and be thoroughly disgraced. Their honor will never be forgotten. Look at how Jeremiah talks about the victory that God promises.
Thank you, Aliyah Return Center.